Don't look now, but the Florida Panthers have the best points percentage in the NHL.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Thursday, February 22nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Panther fans, happy game day to all of you, as the Florida Panthers do have an opportunity to extend their winning streak to 7 and their road winning streak to 12. But while we were recording Tuesday nights going into Wednesday's episode with Jacob Winans, the game between the Colorado Avalanche and the Vancouver Canucks on Tuesday night had not gone final yet. And the Colorado Avalanche eventually ended up winning that one by a final score of 3-1 in regulation, which put the Florida Panthers at the best points percentage in the NHL, even with the Boston Bruins winning last night in Edmonton in overtime, which I fell asleep when it was 4-1. And then I wake up and notice that Boston had won in overtime despite blowing the lead. And even if the Florida Panthers were to lose tonight and tie the Bruins in points percentage, the Florida Panthers would have 5 more regulation wins and 5 more regulation overtime wins as well, if that were to happen tonight. So just a little bit of perspective as well of how well the Florida Panthers have played in a 60-minute frame of hockey. And let's just go more into just the mindset of everything. And Brandon Montour spoke about it after Tuesday's game, saying, quote, everybody's trying to play their best hockey, not really something that we look at the standings, close quote. And sometimes during a season, sometimes we focus more on one game at a time, and sometimes it feels like 82 one-game seasons instead of one 82-game season. It's harder to look at the whole body of work sometimes when you have a little bit of a bad stretch in a good season as well. But I get that, but it's also an opportunity to just focus one game at a time. And with the Panthers having 20 plus games left, you're still trying, like we said at the end of Tuesday's night show, Wednesday's release is just more about just focusing little bits at a time. And by the way, you guys should listen to today's edition of Locked On AHL. It's not out yet, but it will be out later today with Nick Zararis and Hunter Hodes, which every Thursday on the Locked On AHL network, it's Power Ranking Thursday. And the newest Power Rankings for the Locked On AHL channel does have the Florida Panthers at number 1 in the entire league as well. So number 1 overall in the Locked On NHL Power Rankings as well. Gonna read off some of the other teams right behind the Florida Panthers in the rankings. Right behind them are the Vancouver Canucks, Boston Bruins, New York Rangers, and the Colorado Avalanche as well. So just goes to show the class that the Florida Panthers are in compared to the rest of the NHL. I mean, as of right now, they are the class of the NHL. I mean, this is the team that was the Eastern Conference representative in the Stanley Cup Final, President's Trophy the year before, even. So it's a team that has grabbed a lot of players and other teams' attention throughout the last few years, as there has been just a major shift as far as contending teams as well. Because I mean, prior to 2020, we were wondering if there was any hope for this team when Bob Bugner got fired and all, and just questioning whether the core at the time, Barkov, Huberdeau, and Ekblad, were the ones to bring the Panthers to the promised land as well. Obviously, you get the President's Trophy winning season. Bill Zito makes that bold move to trade Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, and it's just shifted the tides as well in the East. I mean, yeah, Tampa Bay has won their cups, but now they're in the first wild card spot as they've gotten a little older. And now you've seen that outside the top line in their power play, it's really hard to get that depth score. And obviously, when you win, you want to reward your guys with long-term extensions as a thank you. And if the Panthers do end up hoisting the Stanley Cup, we will definitely probably see contracts given out as far as a thank you for helping the franchise win its first Stanley Cup in their 30-year history as well. And also, when it comes to the 82 one-game season, coaches and the structure of their practice, travel schedule, goalie situations, you name it. It's more for the coaches to look ahead than the players, because they're not the ones going in and out of the rink every single day and skating in a game setting. And even Paul Maurice has said how I I can tell them what to do, structure it, but they got to play. It's like leading the horse to water as well. The Panthers, at a certain point, you got them there. Now it's about them taking care of business there as well. So, you know, that's where you really, when it comes to one game at a time, it's more of the players that have to have that mindset over the coach as well. So that is for the Panthers. I mean, Maurice doesn't have to try to motivate this group. Just, you could tell just based on their responses. And yeah, winning helps whenever you do come to the rink and say, "Hey, we're just focused on one game at a time." You're not seeing players throwing another under the bus. You're not seeing miscommunications on the ice neither as well. And for the Panthers, it just create, like we said on Tuesday, it creates that environment where it feels good to go to work as well. So the combination of all of that, plus not looking too much ahead and focusing a little bit at a time, that's what's really helped the Florida Panthers get to where they are currently as the number one team as far as points percentage in the NHL. Not necessarily points. They still have a few games in hand on the Vancouver Canucks, one game in hand specifically on the Boston Bruins, but still, it's about going ahead and just focusing a little bits at a time at the assignment for the Panthers. And honestly, for me personally, even though I'm not the one stepping on the ice in the game setting, I I personally just look 2 weeks at a time for the most part for the Panthers. Just what's this next stretch? Yeah, a little bit ahead, but as far as if you were to tell me when if you were to ask me when the next 4 game road trip is on the top of my head, I'd have to I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I know there's an Eastern Canadian trip in April, but that's the only one I got on the top of my head, and they'll be in New York twice, somewhere in the beginning and end of March. But other than that, like the exact order, uh, that's why we got to focus little bits at a time and little segments of the schedule, and that's basically all you can ask for the Florida Panthers as they try to navigate everything as well. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss Bill Zito talking about the upcoming UFAs and some national experts weigh in on the Panthers' pursuit of Noah Hanifin. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. And grocery bills are so expensive these days, but now they don't have to be. Start getting cash back on your grocery shopping with the free Ibotta app and get cash back every time you shop. Do you love making money, but also love spending money? Don't we all? Now you can make money while you spend it every time you shop with Ibotta. Spring break is around the corner, which means you're going shopping, but you don't have to shop for your big trip and get nothing in return. Make sure you're getting cash back every time you shop with Ibotta. Ibotta is the free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items from grocery to beauty supplies to toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. So you can buy that flight you've been eyeing, that game you're dying to go to, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Join over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using code LOCKEDONNHL when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDON NHL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Segment number 2 here on this Thursday, February 22nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Thursday. So, Jameson Olive of FloridaPanthers.com tweeted out a quote from Bill Zito's conversation with Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic discussing the upcoming offseason for the Florida Panthers. Obviously, this is something that we've spoken about basically pretty much since the beginning of the season, with Forsling, Montour, and Reinhart being the main UFAs for the Panthers, and guys who are big contributors as well. And Jameson Olive posted this screenshot of this. It says, quote, "It's a tough dynamic. I guess you could say selfishly, but certainly selfishly on behalf of the Panthers, we want to keep it together. We think we have a way we can. We think we have a way to get everybody paid pretty handsomely. And at the same time, you have to respect the individual, right? You have to. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I think hopefully we'll be able to solve that part of the equation," close quote. And as far as Jameson's caption on the tweet, he says encouraging words by Bill Zito. I'm going to disagree with Jameson here. And I wouldn't say encouraging. It's just Bill Zito playing the PR game as well when it comes to the upcoming UFAs as well. Because what is he supposed to say as well? Of course you want to keep everybody. That's a given as well. But as well, there is the human element of this too. I need to put that side of the argument there, play devil's advocate. And that they're part of your team. I mean, when you think about excuse me, all the acquisitions that Bill Zito has had with these 3 pending UFAs, Forsling off of waivers, Montour, a trade for a first round pick, Sam Reinhart, a trade for a first, Montour is a trade for a third, and there's a connection there. There's an attachment as well. But you also got to not tip your hand neither as well. You want to fit everybody. You want to try to continue this contention window that the Florida Panthers are in, which I still think that they will be after this season, even if they can't keep all 3. So you got to take that with a grain of salt as far as the comment from Bill Zito as well when it comes to that, because I don't know how you're going to do it. I really don't know. I'm not confident that they'll get all 3 guys signed. And it's not a situation where in the NFL where they're having an $8 million rise as far as the projected cap, uh, as far as what was originally rumored, and the 87.7 that is going to be for the salary cap. That's just a rumor. That nothing is set in stone. And by the way, that 8 million more in the NFL, you can thank Taylor Swift for that by going to games and having a lot of eyeballs on. And if Christian Wilkins does resign with the Dolphins, you know who to thank, by the way. And but also at the same time, you could say, damn it, Jeff Skinner, you could have tried to go after Taylor Swift and then help the NHL get more revenue, which would mean more cap space for all teams involved. But but as far as the Panthers' pursuit of Noah Hanifin, David Dwork, my colleague and my dear friend, also spoke to two national experts, David Pragnota of the Fourth Period and Shayna Goldman of The Athletic as well. And this is what Pragnota had to say about the Panthers' pursuit for defenseman Noah Hanifin. And he says that he does not envision Bill Zito moving someone like Anton Lindell for a rental. And yes, there's that whole, do you believe that you can get Noah Hanifin to sign a long-term deal? And thankfully for the Panthers, they are not necessarily cash rich, but they're not squeezed up. But the thing is, they are asset poor. Let's be honest. And the little bits that you have left as far as young players / prospects, do you want to give all that up for a guy to fit your system when you already have the structure there? The thing is, Noah Hanifin, as far as a move, just seems like something that would be an offseason move for, in my opinion, when it comes to that. Yeah, do you want to prevent your division rivals from getting a guy? Yeah, he's from Boston. Bruins are definitely going to be pursuing him as well, even though I believe Boston should pursue centers as well, because I believe they're going to go try pretty hard for Elias Lindholm in the offseason as well. Shane Goldman also spoke about it, saying it could push Mikkola to the third pair, assuming that OEL is gone after this year, which I said that from the time that the Panthers signed him. And this is why term matters in Mikkola's contract, because the first year, he's on the second pair. And then as he ages and as the contract ages and the salary cap rises, he's a lower percentage of your cap, and he could be a third pair, which you're liking. I mean, when the Panthers signed Radko Gudas, he started off with the second pair and then eventually ended up as the third as he got older as well. If you give Forsling a 5-year deal at $5 million, that's just a guess. That's no reporting there. You'll get his ceiling, which looks like we're seeing that right now. But if we're, and at the end, there's gonna be very little clauses, and you'd have options where his floor could be teetering between the second and third pair, and no clause, and if there's limited clauses at the end, you could get rid of that if you do. And we spoke about Hanifin as far as the Montour replacement, but that could also be the Ekblad replacement too, as he's in UFA in 2025, because Hanifin, big body, fits that fast physical style and can get the pucks quick up the ice as well for the Panthers if the Panthers do pursue him. Well, they are pursuing him, but if they make the deal as well. But at the same time, it's going to be off season, and the fact that the Panthers would be able to pull this off. Because even if you trade Hanifin for Hanifin, excuse me, Josh Mahura is likely going as well. You got maybe put in a little depth piece in William Lockwood or Stephen Lawrence as well. But there's got to be one more. But the Flames aren't going to be happy about that. You got to add something else to it. He's going to commit. He's going to provide a big return going the other way. So got to pay up if you're going to try to get him. So it looks like that for the Panthers, just the situation and the assets or that lack thereof, this just seems like an off-season move. And for Anton Lindell specifically, I mean, the amount of situations that he is in as far as the top penalty killers and the first guy to go on the top two center spots whenever Barkov and Bennett are hurt. He is the guy that you trust. So if he's gone, who's going to be that next person? Probably Etulis Theranen. So you're losing that insurance as far as that, because it's not if Barkov and Bennett get hurt, it's about when they get hurt. And I don't wish that, but you got to be honest about, especially Bennett with his physical style of play, who he's a menace. My God, Sam Bennett is a menace. And the way he brings the puck up the middle too. He's a scary player to go up against. And that style of play is going to probably sideline him too. And those hard neutral zone hits too. And up against the boards with all of his battles as well. So that is, you got to think about it from the insurance perspective of it when considering keeping Anton Lundell. But short and long term, give him a bridge deal at maybe 2.5 around there, no more than that. And I think it's very serviceable for the next 3 years as we see a more rise in the cap as well. So you can go back to the negotiating table and see how he's improved over that too. But I'm not on the trade Anton Lundell train. But never say never, obviously. And if you were to consider it, take it to the summer for that. Because right now, the Panthers got such a great thing going, and you don't want to ruin that for this team. We're going to flip over to our third and final segment where the Florida Panthers will be taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. We are going to preview tonight's matchup between the two teams. So stay right here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. And we're driven for the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality of matches compared to other job sites, according to recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners to the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Third and final segment here on this Thursday, February 22nd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So, the Florida Panthers will face off against the Carolina Hurricanes tonight from PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. The first meaningful game for the Panthers since Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final. The Panthers did play a preseason game where it was mostly the AHL guys for the Panthers there, but the first meaningful game since Matthew Tkachuk scored just before the 2-minute mark of the first overtime period. Second one in 2 games, overtime winner, busts in 10 and leaves the ice immediately, and just back-to-back games with overtime winners. Just great memory as far as South Florida sports moments as well of what happened in late May. But what's on the line as well? A 7-game winning streak for the Panthers and a 12-game road winning streak as well for the Cats. And don't look now. If the Florida Panthers win tonight, they will tie the longest road winning streak in NHL history. And the game to break it would be next Saturday March 3rd against the Detroit Red Wings and a nationally televised game too. So that's what's on the line. So Carolina Hurricanes, they got off to a rough start in the beginning of the season. But since December 23rd, the Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes are both on fire. Panthers 19-3-2 in the last 24 games since December 23rd. And the Carolina Hurricanes have the third best points percentage since December 23rd as well. And it's crazy. The Panthers are on this run, but they don't even have the best points percentage in the stretch. That belongs to the Edmonton Oilers. And crazy. The Edmonton Oilers looked dead in the water, and now they're climbing and climbing and climbing with quite a few games in hand too. Can they get to the top of the Pacific? Don't necessarily think so, but but still, incredible run by them. But going back to Carolina, I had them as my pick to go to the Stanley Cup final, losing to the Dallas Stars as well. That was my preseason Stanley Cup final pick as well. But Carolina is 8-2-0 in their last 10, and their two losses are quality losses, I would say, Vancouver and Dallas in that stretch. And numbers are very identical as far as goals for. Carolina 8th to Florida's 12th. Goals against not so much. Florida is second while Carolina is ninth. Power play percentage. The Carolina Hurricanes are third. Florida's sixth. And PK third to Carolina, and Florida's fourth as well. But in that Eastern Conference final series, the Carolina Hurricanes were without Andrei Svechnikov as well. Tore his ACL towards the end of the season, missed the playoffs, and missed the obviously the series against the Panthers. And this guy, man, he's incredible to watch on the ice. A former third overall pick, and the thing is, I'm a believer that he can score 40 in any season if healthy as well. And for the Hurricanes, though, offense has not been an issue at the beginning of the season. It's just really about goaltending and the chances going in the back of their net as far as quality over quantity as well for the Canes. And for the goaltending, Pyotr Kochetkov, going to assume that he will be the starter tonight with it says Daily Faceoff said that Antti Raanta is currently out, and Freddie Anderson is still sidelined due to blood clots as well. So we hope that Freddie Anderson does have a speedy recovery and that we could see him on the ice again as well. It's been drama with the goaltending too. Antti Raanta was placed on waivers. They pick up, which he cleared. They pick up Spencer Martin from the Columbus Blue Jackets, but he was most recently in Vancouver as well. And this is the thing. After getting swept, which don't tell Rod Brind'Amour that, they landed that big fish as far as defenseman in Dmitry Orlov. But there has been a lot of shakeups on the D pairs as well as they're trying to prevent those high danger scoring chances as well. By the way, Pyotr Kochetkov, his goals save above expected is minus 3.9. Raanta is almost at minus 10 as well. So just goes to show the goals that are leaked in by Carolina over and over again as far as the body of work this season as well. And Svechnikov, he's on an 82 game pace of shots being of his shots getting blocked as well. So even though he's shooting 15% and he has on pace for he would be on an 82 game pace of over 30 goals. He's not finding the puck in open space and getting it to the net as well. And that's when you're coming off a torn ACL, it's a little bit harder to get out in space and create find the open seams as well. So as far as him exploding, I would expect that more of next season as far as him getting a full off season of work as well as he spent this off season trying to recover and get back. And also the shots on goal, the paces for him is 188 shots on goal for the season, which is about 60 less than his career high back in 2022, where he got 30 goals as well. And they have dangerous weapons as far as Sebastian Aho, who could be Sasha Barkov's teammate in the Four Nations face-off and the Olympics as well. So that is a dangerous man for the Carolina Hurricanes, as Sebastian Aho has almost a point per game against the Panthers, 28 points. Excuse me, he's over a point per game, 28 points in 27 games played against the Florida Panthers. Svechnikov is 6 points under a point per game, 14 points in 20 as well. But Barkov shines against the Carolina Hurricanes, 34 points in 34 games. Matthew Tkachuk, not so much, 7 points in 13. And Reinhart, 12 points in 20 games played against the Carolina Hurricanes as well. But Sergei Bobrovsky, 923 save percentage with a 2.38 goals against average in his 28 career starts against Carolina as well. So we have some great individual performances from the Panthers historically against the Hurricanes, and we have it on the other side with the Carolina Hurricanes against the Panthers. And these two teams got mostly familiar with each other just a few seasons ago in that 2021 season where they faced 8 times. Carolina got a point in every single game. Their 2 losses against the Panthers that season were 2 overtime losses too, as well. So you also got to ask yourself, what does the window for the Carolina Hurricanes look like? Because they've been threatening the last few seasons. They're not getting any younger. Jordan, they brought Jordan Staal on a very team-friendly deal for a few years. Marty Necas is likely going to get extended as he's bursted on the scene as well. He's on his way to 30 goals, and he's still young. Going to be an RFA. He's going to be an RFA this summer. Marty Necas. So what's going to be the pay bump this offseason? Or is he going to be a trade target as well and get some value out of it? But still, they have guys who are still relatively young, but they're still having issues as far as solving their goaltending and blue line shakeups. What is going to be the consistency in their shakeups as well? Because we spoke about Orlov in the beginning of this segment, but he's only been with his D partner in Brett Pesce for 38 minutes this whole season at 5-on-5 as well. D'Angelo has been a scratch here and there. He's playing a little bit of a role as well. Slavin Burns, that's the top pair for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's funny because they were on the ice for both the overtime winners by Matthew Tkachuk as well. So Panthers were able to expose that pair in the Eastern Conference Final as well. So do they do that again this time around? As far as their inability to break the puck out and win their battles. So we'll see. We'll see about that. But it's one matchup out of 3. Second out of 3 tonight, which one more will be on March 14th in Raleigh. That is also on a Thursday night, just like tonight's matchup. So, but it's an opportunity to win the season series. They won 5-2 on multiple players getting multi-point games. Matthew Tkachuk and Carter Hagee are the 2 guys that come to the top of my head as far as that. But an opportunity to win the season series and to continue their road winning streak at 12 and their overall winning streak to 7. That's going to do it for this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Come back for tomorrow's edition of the show, where Nick Fairbanks will be joining me for another edition of Fairbanks Friday. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.